Hmm. Did the reviews. That. Did that. I did that. I mean, it doesn't hurt to try.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, boss. What's going on? I was wondering, since I did most of the reviews for the guns, I was wondering if it's time to actually for me to do a personal build.
Hmm. Well, you've been doing a lot of reviews on the other builds, on other guns. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and go into your review on your own personal gun.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. I'll probably get that done as soon as possible.
Sounds good.
It's time. It's time. My favorite show that I actually watched starting since the summertime, all the way to binge watch it all the way through to basically the end of October. It was a really good show and surprisingly had something that I liked, which was mainly the guns, the tactical gear, the action itself, and surprisingly enough, it's on the show CBS known as SWAT. And the one thing is all the main characters you would know is basically Hondo, Street, Tan, you had Chris, you had basically Deacon themselves, Powell, all the way to Gonzalez themselves. All those situations of like crazy tactical gears, high speed setup, the show was there. Well, if you're not really a fan of the show or not really into any of those stuffs, maybe I'll give you a reason. In fact, let me give you 2 reasons why you should probably watch SWAT, as this is my inspired build from the show SWAT. Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of Airsoft Master. And today we're going to be talking about is 2 of my inspired actual builds from the show SWAT. Mainly the fact I have one from season 1 through 5, and then as well to that the new one in basically season 6, and we're most likely going to see it in season 7. But some of the iterations I did change in regards to that to help my own aspect in this setup, and basically some of the inspired what helped me build these setups as well. It's not going to be really accurate, but pretty darn close to the same thing. If you guys want to change it out with certain parts, basically I'll leave the link down below and on the descriptions on anything that you would need to help make it your more setup or your more accurate at the same time. But let's go ahead and talk about mainly in the first season on itself is the fact that you'll see is the main baseline of these actual rifles from all seasons is an HK416. Now there are many broadbands of anything you want to do in regards of making it the actual 416 basis of the builds, either gas blowback, electric, the recoil shocks, everything else. You have many options. For example, the one I used for the season 2, this is actually a VFC HK416A5, the Full Metal series. And of course you can't go wrong with actually using this as a competition series, which actually still helps out making it accurate. And as well to that, you also have is the gas blowback setups as well. Basically, this one is my inspired build from the Tokyo Marui MWS system itself, which something is pretty nice, but again, it's that nice little textures of touch of recoil and everything else that I would want. But I digress. Let's go ahead and get into it in regards to the builds by going one by one and finding out what they look like. Let's start off with the actual first rifle that I've seen here in the actual season from 1 through 5 is the HK416D, also known as the HK416 CQB, in the other airsoft aspects as well. Now, surprisingly enough, why the platform at the beginning? Well, surprisingly enough, LAPD SWAT was actually contracted with Heckler & Co. and using the HK416 was their main platform, and believed still to use in this today. Now, in regards to that aspect as well, there are many airsoft variations out there you can pick. For example, the WeTech Soul for the gas blowback setup. There's even the KWA version, collaboration with Umarex, actually the 416 with a longer barrel, which is actually pretty nice as well. And then you also have is like the electric systems like the VFC 416 from VFC themselves. You also have is also the Tokyo-Marui, which is a good for consistency and also recoil setup in regards to the recoil shock with the 416 itself. So I decided for my personal build, I decided to go with the actual Tokyo-Marui MWS. Reason why is, again, for me to learn all the process of during the technology, is mainly the fact that the more gas efficiency types was the gas blowback rifle was Tokyo-Marui themselves. So I decided to go with that. But let's go ahead and work on the main basis of what we see on the front all the way to the back on my 416 here. Mainly the fact that I was using a 14mm counterclockwise actual threading on the actual standard flash hider, just to keep it that nice standard setup of like the actual 416 goes through. And of course you'll see on the tip end of this one is actually a replica Surefire flashlight I use. Now, surprisingly enough, if I don't really use this one, I'm going to actually use the one that we have, which is the Element flashlights. You'll see it on my AEG later on. Now let's go on to the top end. What you'll see is I have a laser D-ball system in here. Now in season 1 through 5, you'll see that they actually have is the actual D-ball on there. The only differences between mine to theirs is they would have is the standard red light and infrared. During the time we were out of stock, so I decided to do the next best thing is the actual blue laser system on there. And of course, you'll see in the front is I do have backup sights, front and back, and they're actually made by Gold Eagle. And again, I was inspired by that because again, just in case if my sights go out or my laser system goes out, I have a backup sights just in case, just to go through and target acquisition is a lot better. Other than that, let's go ahead and get into my sights that you'll see here. Now, for me, I do have as a replica Red Dot XPS system, and including that, the actual magnifier, which is pretty nice in the actual touch itself. And for one thing is, of course, I'll have is the 5/8 risers to help it out, just so when I cheek in, it's a lot easier for me to acquisition, compared to just like going all the way in deep in for it, which makes it sometimes difficult when you're actually wearing a mask. Now, in regards to my internals that I use, my internals on here, I actually do have to actually help improve it. I did have to use on the kit itself, which is a How Industries kit on the build. Now for that, it was basically a pretty pricey setup, but what's nice about the actual How Industries is they mill it out from a straight aluminum block itself and making it into the same design from all the way from the rails itself, even to the receiver. So again, it's a pretty nice setup. Now on to my internals. The internals inside itself is going to be a unicorn collaboration alongside with How Industries for the bolt itself. One thing they are actually known for is being really hot on the FPS itself. So say for example, if you want to do it for like indoor CQB, you can always swap it out by going to the actual low pressure valve systems that they do sell like a unicorn, which we do have online as well. But unfortunately with the combinations that I did with the inner barrel, which is a 603 Type 4, which is around the 280 millimeters by GNP, unfortunately even with the low pressure valve, I'm still shooting around 400 FPS. But I guess this basically makes my gun into more of the outdoor fields, which I'm okay with that as well. Now alongside with the actual trigger systems and the housing itself, I'm using the Guts Modify actual Evo trigger system, which the trigger itself should be very familiar to you in regards of the actual parts that's on there. As well to that, one thing I do like about the actual Guns Modified trigger box is the fact that you can adjust it to certain actual trigger pulls in regards of certain stuff that you would want to make it for the less slack, or in case you want more slack, just to make it more realistic. My recoil system I'm using is an Angry Gun actual recoil kit, which is the heavy buffer system, which is made out of steel, and as well to the more like the 130% recoil system that you'll see on Angry Gun for the buffer spring itself. Now, and of course, we can't go wrong with the last piece of the cherry on top that I like to talk about is my charging handle, which is the Radiant Arms charging handle, and that's actually licensed with, actually manufactured by PTS. But how are the parts all the way through with this rifle itself? For starters, on the trigger pull, I have to admit that the fact that when you pull it, it's already on the wall itself, meaning that it's a really short pull. Let's go ahead and check the reset, but again, just to show you guys, straight on the wall. Here's the reset. Again, nice audible clicks, but it still helps out with actually still functioning for the burst and auto, and at the same time, the semi still solid. But the question is Mike, is it really worth everything else all the way with these parts inside for your gas blowback rifle? Well, why don't we test it out? So let's go ahead while I fill up the gas just to show you guys in regards of it. One thing I do say about this rifle is it's a pretty nice setup and it's a very heavy build. But in regards of the performance itself, I do have to admit, it's pretty solid. Now we're on to Season 6's actual rifle. Mainly the fact that they changed it out from being the close quarter guys being the actual MP5 to the MPX. The helmets went from OpsCore to Team Wendy. And of course, with the rifle, from the 416 to the 416A5. Now for my inspired build, I actually decided to build it off of the actual character, Victor Tan himself. In regards to that is, the one thing is we'll start off with is the 416A5 full metal variant that I have here by VFC and Umarex. Now, it is a little bit heavy on the basis of it, but if you want to change it out to like something else that's the same variant, you can go with the actual competition series where it's a lot more lightweight and again, a lot more reasonable on the actual budget itself. But again, I do like the full metal, so it's something really nice setup. But again, we're going to start off with the actual front all the way to back. Starting off with, I went with the standard for it on the birdcage flash hider itself. And of course, the actual element flashlight itself would make it more easier for me to illuminate when I'm playing at Tac City, just to help set up those close corners and as well to that illuminate the dark areas. And of course, let's go ahead and talk about the front sights. Now, one thing I will have to admit with CVS they did mess up on is, did anybody tell them that even though they put the front and rear sights already inside the actual rifle, did anybody tell them about the rail itself having the integrated one already on there? Sorry, CBS. But either way, it's still a good setup, and to make it more kosher to the build, I did have the actual classic Army front and rear sights that I had spare. But if you want to look for these types as well, you can always get the Echo 1 front and rear sights, or even Gold Eagles, and they'll work just as fine. As well to that, for my lasers designated system is, in the show they swapped it out from the D-ball to the actual compact Engol system, where it's a red and actual infrared laser that you can get like the ones that you see at like Atlas Customs or even the FMA types that we do sell online. Again, they were using a tan one, so of course I have to go with the tan variant as well. And of course you would have as the foregrip itself is the regular Magpul RVG grips. Now for my optic though. The optic that he was using was the actual Trijicon SRS, and for me, I was actually trying to get it as close as I can. Is you can always go with the actual copy replicas that basically you can find other online places. Now, you can always is to go for the compact variant to make it still stay on the low profile by getting the MRO version. The MRO it does have, we can actually sell online, is the actual slim type of ones with a little riser on top to help make it more of the closer accurate builds to like Deacons, and as well to that even like Streets versions. Now for the internals. The internals itself, surprisingly enough, I kept this stock for the longest time ever since this gun did come out. Only thing I did change was making more of the Type 4 603 inner barrel and changing out for a harder bucking for like the actual setup to be more flat hop. Again, for those close actual farther range distance shots. Now for the back end of it though, is the one thing you'll notice is you do have as your standard ambidextrous control being safe semi-full auto, just like in a normal, and of course your bolt catch and magazine release is the actual clean touch. But the best part of it, again, we're going to go into is the classic setup of the HK416 actual grip itself, where you have this the beaver tail, and again to help make it more that comfort setup, but still able to help keep everything stable for me. Again, nice little touches. And for the back of the stock, yes, they were using a CTR, but unfortunately I wasn't able to actually get another one as regards of it. But for a nice little set budget build is for the 25, I can get this actual nice slim stock that we have here, where again it's a B5 slim style, where I don't want it to be too bulky, but at the same time I still like that same set of style that I did see on other setups. And again, it does have the QD points in the back, so I can actually change it out to actually put the sling in the front and go rock my 2-point sling out there. Again, nice little setup as well. But the last piece that you need to make this rifle more kosher is they were using Terran Tactical base plates extended on a regular standard Magpul mag. But for Airsoft variant for the AEGs, you can always buy these separately, as these were the same ones that you would see on the review for the Terran Tactical Ultralight rifle, which I'll put the link down below. But then again, this one would make the actual last piece you would need for the Season 6 rifle from SWAT. And basically that's it. These are my two setups of my inspired builds from the actual show SWAT. In regards to that as well, you have many types of variations that you want to do in regards of these rifles itself. And the best part is if you're looking for any of the attachments, we do sell them here at airsoftmaster.com. And if you guys are looking for that, go ahead and check it out on the link below. And as well to that, don't forget to subscribe to our actual channel. And if you guys are looking to the comments down in the sections of what do you guys think about my builds, please do so and I'll basically respond back. But again, from Mike, I'll see you guys in the next episode.
This video is brought to you by Airsoft Master.